This happened last January. I had taken a week off from work following New Year's, hoping that everyone else would be back at work by then so I could enjoy the week without it being too busy everywhere. My plans consisted of shopping around and just relaxing at my apartment. On the day this happened, I was out driving in the snow, making my way to a few stores. By 7 p.m., I was back at my apartment. I went inside, cooled off, and sat on the couch with some snacks I had just bought. I was watching TV and dozing off from the long day when, around 8:30 or so, the PA system in my apartment buzzed, meaning someone was outside wanting me to let them into the building. I had no plans for visitors, so I had no idea who it could be. They buzzed my room again and again. I got up and went to the window that faced the front of the building, trying not to lift the blinds too much, just enough to peek out. A large man stood at the door to the apartment building. It was still snowy and dark, but I could tell he was older, maybe in his mid-40s. I had never seen him before in my life. There were only 3 other people living in the complex, so I was familiar with everyone who lived there, and he was definitely not one of them. If he lived there or was visiting someone, surely they would let him in. Instead, I walked over to the PA system, muted it, and got back on the couch to continue watching TV. I didn't think much more about it and dozed off several times over the next hour. Eventually, I turned off the TV and went to bed. A few hours later, I woke up to a loud thud from just outside my room. My heart raced as I stared at my door, listening. The apartment was silent, almost like nothing had happened. Slowly, I got out of bed, moved toward the door, and leaned against it to listen. Still nothing, just the occasional creak of the building. I turned the handle and peeked into the living room. Everything seemed normal, but for some reason, I felt the need to stay quiet and not make myself known. Leaving the lights off, I moved through the living room and looked down the hallway toward the apartment door. It was fully open. I froze, fear running through my entire body. It didn't seem real. I took a few quiet steps back toward my room. Then, from the other side of the door, I saw a huge dent in the wood by the knob. The moment I saw it, I ran inside, locked the door, and called 911 while hiding in the closet. I was sure whoever had broken in was still inside and that it was only a matter of time before they tried to get into my room. But as I waited for the police, the apartment remained silent. When the officers arrived, they couldn't find anything or anyone. They suspected the intruder had buzzed all the other rooms until someone was nice enough to let them in. Once inside the main stairwell, for some reason, they chose my apartment. Maybe they thought it was empty. What still disturbs me is the dent on my bedroom door. The police believe it was from a single hit, like someone lashing out in frustration before leaving, rather than an actual attempt to break in. I still live in the same apartment, and nothing else has happened. Who it was and what they wanted is still unknown. This happened recently. I guess it's more strange than horrifying. I don't know if you'll find it scary, but I was definitely scared while experiencing it. I live in a rural area just outside a small town. It's nice because I get the experience of country living while still being able to walk into town if I need to. I could drive, but if the weather is good, I prefer to walk and get some exercise. The other day, I decided to walk into town to visit the liquor store. That was another reason I walked. I figured if I was going to drink, I should earn it by getting some exercise first. The weather was nice, not as cold as it had been recently. The dirt road I live on goes downhill and connects to a highway, which I have to walk along to reach the main road leading to the shopping area. This area is right off an interstate exit, so there are a lot of shops, but along the regular highway, there are only a couple of gas stations. As I reached the bottom of the hill and was about to turn onto the highway, I noticed someone walking behind me. Since I wasn't moving very fast, he passed me. As he did, he turned and looked at me, which wasn't unusual in itself, but he kept eye contact far longer than normal. His face looked like something out of The Hills Have Eyes, and his expression was pure contempt. It was unsettling. What he did next was even stranger. He was carrying a pencil in his right hand. As we walked through the small parking lot of an abandoned building near the gas station, he suddenly leaned down and drew a line across the entire length of the sidewalk. Then he continued toward the gas station on the left side of the road, still dragging his pencil along the pavement. I crossed the road and kept watching him as he did the same thing in front of the gas station before going inside. I hoped that would be the last I saw of him. I continued walking and turned onto the main road where all the businesses were. A little while later, as I crossed down a side street, I noticed someone walking toward me. My stomach dropped when I realized it was him again, still carrying his pencil. I picked up my pace. I didn't think he had any real reason to care about me, but I kept seeing him stop in front of businesses to do that weird pencil thing. Luckily, I was walking straight through town without stopping, so he couldn't catch up to me. The closer I got to the liquor store, the less I noticed him. By the time I reached the store, he was gone. I got what I needed and headed back home, relieved that I didn't see him again. That relief didn't last long. When I reached the abandoned building where I had first encountered him, I turned the corner onto the dirt road leading to my house, and nearly jumped out of my skin. He was there, leaning against the side of the building, waiting for me. I'm pretty sure he saw me flinch, and for some reason, that set him off. "Hey," he suddenly screamed. "Don't walk away from me. What's your damn problem?" I turned briefly. "I don't have a problem with you. You just startled me." "No big deal. You've been watching me all damn day," he snapped. "You got a problem with me? You better say something before I kick your ass." I wasn't afraid of his threat. I easily had 50 pounds on him and wasn't exactly inexperienced in fights. But that wasn't the point. I wasn't looking for a confrontation, and by this point, I knew something was wrong with him. I didn't respond. I just kept walking, faster now. Then I heard movement behind me. I turned slightly and saw that he was following. He wasn't right on my heels, but he was definitely keeping pace. I kept my head down and focused on getting home. When I reached my house, I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and locked it behind me. I went straight to the kitchen window and peered outside. He was still there. For a moment, he just stood at the edge of my property, watching. Then he started walking up my driveway toward my porch. I didn't hesitate, I called the cops immediately. Even though I live in a rural area, I'm close enough to town that they arrived fairly quickly. The guy tried to run when he saw them, but they caught him skulking around the side of my house. I told the officers about the threats he had made earlier and the strange behavior with the pencil. They took him away. A few days later, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A pencil mark ran across the entire length of my front porch. I have no idea what that guy was up to, but whatever it wasn't normal. I'm an 18-year-old guy who lives with my mom. We don't live in the house I grew up in, but we're still in the same neighborhood as my grandma's house, just a minute away from all my aunts, uncles, and cousins. It's always been a happy place for me because I grew up around here. To put it plainly, I love this town. I feel comfortable almost everywhere, and nothing bad has ever happened to me or my family while we've lived here. We're close to the Gulf of Mexico, and the town is full of chemical plants, so most of the people here are workers from those plants and their families. People tend to mind their own business and respect hard work and integrity. Of course, there are some crazies living here too. Not long ago, a body was found in a storage unit, a woman murdered by her husband. He wasn't charged because he committed suicide shortly after. Another guy, who used to work at the same power plant I do now, was arrested for hitting a woman with his car and driving away. Point is, yeah, bad things happen sometimes. But for the most part, it's a quiet place. Maybe that's why what happened that night shocked me so much. It was a typical Thursday. I woke up at 7 a.m., went to work, and got off at 4. I came home, did my usual routine, showered, played some video games, smoked a little weed, then ate dinner. Pretty good evening so far. My mom's friend April came over and stayed for a couple of hours. She lives just a block away and had walked over, but she didn't want to walk home alone in the dark. Around 9 p.m., my mom told me she was walking April back and that it would only take a few minutes. "All right," I said. "See you when you get back." They left. Not even a minute later, I thought I heard tapping on my window. It was so light and inconsistent that I wasn't sure if someone was actually tapping or if my mind was playing tricks on me. Feeling a little paranoid, I turned on some music to distract myself. A couple of minutes later, I turned the music down, because this time, I knew I heard something. My back door had opened. It's an old door, and it makes a loud noise when it moves. Plus, we keep a spare key in the lock, and every time the door opens, the key rattles against the metal. That sound was unmistakable. I turned my music off and went completely still. For a full minute, I didn't hear another sound. But I knew someone had come inside. I could feel it. No footsteps. No voices. Just silence. I felt a chill run through me, but I quickly told myself to grab the knife I keep in my desk drawer. I felt kind of stupid. What if I was just being paranoid, but better safe than sorry? More silence. I figured if I acted like I had the upper hand, whoever was in the house might get intimidated. So I stood up, knife in hand, and walked out of my bedroom. For some reason, I whistled. Just one short note. I took a few steps forward, heading toward the back door. I was about to turn the corner when I whistled again, still trying to act tough. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Someone whistled back. It came from the living room. I froze. My whole body tensed up, every hair on my arm standing on end. I didn't recognize the voice, or the tone, but there was no mistaking it. Someone was in my house. I peeked around the corner. Nothing. The back door was closed, but it was unlocked. I couldn't remember if I had left it that way or not. A few minutes later, my mom came home. I didn't tell her what happened. I don't know why. Maybe because it was just weird. It didn't make sense. But I know what I heard. I searched the whole house afterward, but I never found a single trace that anyone had been there. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.